Fun, convenient, and cheap.
And they said it couldn't be done.
But whoever said that never owned a hot hatch. With this list, you can pick up the dogs, head to the racetrack, and still save up for retirement. All without sacrificing style. That's right, today on Ideal, we listen to your comments. And we're coming at you with 8 of the best hot hatchbacks you can get without breaking the bank. I'm the Squid, this is Ideal. Buckle up or whatever, and let's get into this list. And we're gonna start strong with this one, with one of the most fun, fast, and cheap little hatchbacks ever made, the Honda CRX. Yes, this is for you, Ivan. I have seen all of those comments you left. And you're right, the CRX is just an all-around fantastic car. Yes, the CRX is not technically a hatchback, but we're gonna let that slide. Because the Civic Renaissance Experimental, otherwise known as the CRX, is probably one of the most approachable, most affordable, and most fun to tune cars ever built. And it's actually from kind of the beginning of Japanese tuner culture. You see, back before the CRX, everyone was tuning things like Celicas and Supras. Suddenly, it's the mid-80s, and here comes Honda with this fun, affordable little front-wheel drive car that had just unlimited tuning potential. So back when Squid was in high school, everyone had a CRX and none of them were stock. Everyone could afford this cheap, sporty little car, and that's what makes the Japanese tuning scene so fun. And today, while their prices are low but kinda maybe coming up, they're still an insanely affordable and approachable first platform for you to get into cars and tuning. Or just leave it alone and drive it around. It's still a decent car. It's gonna be endlessly reliable, it's gonna be fun, it's unique, and all the JDM heads will respect you when you pull into the car meet, no matter what state a CRX is in. Today, the prices range from 3 to 10 grand depending on example. If you get a really good one, hold on to it. I think it's gonna go up in value over the next few years. Either way, from a junker to a beautiful example, this is gonna be a really fun car for you to start out with. Now I know there's like 3 or 4 of you that watch these videos that are not fan of Japanese cars, and for you, we're gonna take a little trip to Italy. Let me tell you all about the Fiat 500. We actually get a lot of comments here about the Fiat, but we don't really talk about it because we know it's kind of an acquired taste, like espresso. Super. And not just because it's cute and kind of girly, but also because it's kind of unreliable and difficult to work on. But I'm still gonna include it here because I think the Fiat 500 is something special for its price, if you can put up with all the temperamental issues. Because honestly, I've rented one and it was a hoot to drive. I mean, we're talking about a car that has next to no weight, a short wheelbase, and plenty of power. It's kind of like driving a go-kart on the streets. And I know that's very cliche and overused, but here it actually applies. And look, by all accounts, some people on the internet are saying that they're very reliable and not that hard to own. So take everything with a grain of salt. And if you want to forge your own path and own a Fiat 500, good news, they're damn cheap. You can get a Fiat 500 for under 5 grand, and it's gonna be a hell of a lot newer than that CRX I just talked about. But I know what you're saying, you need a little more room. I mean, the Fiat 500 is one of like the smallest cars ever made, and the CRX wasn't much bigger. You need some space. But you also really wanna go fast. And for that, you have to go with the always the answer for a hot hatchback, Mazda Speed 3. Mazda has always been the underdog. They always come in second place after Nissan, Toyota, and Honda in any conversation. Even in the golden age of the 90s when they were making the RX-7, no one was really in love with Mazda. Which is a shame because Mazda's whole mantra is being fun to drive. And from the Miata to this Mazda Speed 3, mission accomplished, Mazda. Back in 2006, Mazda took their little commuter car hatchback and added a turbo to it, and created the somewhat confusingly named Mazda Speed 3. But despite its name, Car and Driver called this one of the top 10 best cars of the year in 2007, 2008, and 2010. The reason, in their words, the Mazda Speed 3 is a reminder that there is a fun car to drive for every economic situation. Translated from fancy, flowery journalist speak, they're saying that this is a fun to drive car and it's damn cheap. And look, honestly, I've driven a few Mazdas in my life, and unlike Subaru, I actually enjoy being on the inside of them. They know how to make an interior, and the driving dynamics, the steering feel, the brake feel, everything, the suspension, it just feels raw and fun. And the absolute best news is these sleeper hatchbacks are still pretty cheap. We were able to find a number of these for around 7,000 bucks for sale. Now, pretty much every car on this list, including all the cars I've talked about so far, are getting a little long in the tooth, which is a super old man saying for saying that they're very old. Good news is, back in 2013, Ford kind of revitalized the hot hatch market with the Fiesta ST, and the prices for them are still attainable today. Yes, the Fiesta ST is a car that I love, but you don't have to take my word for it. Car Saint Chris Harris called it the joyful, naughty little car of the year. I'm a little bit concerned about the naughty bit, but it is hard to overstate how fun this little hot hatchback is to drive, especially for the price, and especially right now with the market being the way that it is. Yes, you could get the bigger brother, the Focus ST, but good luck affording it. It's going to cost you over 10 grand. And good news, for less money, you can get the lighter, the stiffer, the more fun to drive Fiesta ST. We were able to find decent examples of this for under 10 grand on the market. So if you have the kind of dough to spend on a more modern and fun hatchback, I recommend the Fiesta ST. And look, I know some of you don't have the funds, and you're looking for something that's just cheap and reliable. Well, I bet you can guess what brand the next car comes from when I talk about cheap and reliable. And I am of course talking about the Toyota Matrix XRS. Look, some of the most sound advice anyone has ever given me is just buy a Corolla. Yes, they're not fun, they're not exciting, but they're cheap and they're reliable. Of course, it's not an ideal choice. We do have a whole, system for buying and finding the ideal car for you and earning and making money off of them. You can check that out up here. Brad will tell you all about it, and it is definitely worth the watch. But that's for people who use cars as an investment. If you're using a car just to get your ass to work, you can't do much better than the Toyota Matrix XRS. It's basically a hatchback version of the Toyota Corolla. And it's not some bland and boring grocery getter. This thing has a Yamaha tuned 4-banger with Toyota's version of VTEC, and revs all the way up to 8,000 RPMs. Sure, you don't get the sweet turbo like the Mazda Speed 3, but that just means you don't have to worry about maintaining it. This is the perfect car that you want to drive and enjoy, but don't want to spend a ton of money on. Toyota made a zillion of these things, and that means that they're cheap as hell today. A decently high mileage Matrix right now will net you about 4 grand out of your pocket. And it's a Toyota Corolla, so who cares about the mileage? And if you want to be a little different and you don't want to have a Toyota badge, you can get the Pontiac Vibe. It's basically the same thing and sometimes is a little cheaper. But I know what you're thinking. Toyota Matrix, Pontiac Vibe, no one's gonna think I'm cool driving that. What is one car that's affordable, fun, and cool? I mean, so cool that it was a star in numerous movies? Well, that will be the British icon, the Mini Cooper S. Now, of course, the new Minis aren't as cool as the old Minis. I mean, nothing really is, and these being basically rebranded BMWs, they were kind of doomed from the start. But go out on the streets and everyone loves them. Even hardcore JDM guys and muscle car boys still kind of have a soft spot whenever they see a little Mini driving around. I mean, you tell me, do you love the Mini? Let me know down in the comments. What's the catch? Well, unfortunately, just like the Fiat 500, Minis aren't exactly the most reliable cars on the road. And fixing them, well, it's a BMW, so it ain't cheap. You're gonna be dealing with electrical problems, you're gonna deal with water pumps and all the other stuff that you always deal with whenever you buy a BMW. But the good news is, they're so cheap, you almost won't care. There are 3 generations of Mini Cooper to choose from, each one with its own pros and cons. The 3rd gens are turbocharged and tend to be a little more reliable, so if you've got the pocket for it, buy one. But if you don't and you don't mind wrenching a little, the 1st gen Mini Cooper S is super cheap right now, and parts are pretty easy to come by. No matter which generation you choose, you can probably get into a Mini Cooper S for between $5,000 and $10,000 today, which makes me question why I bought a Honda Fit instead. These are probably a lot more fun to drive. Now, staying across the Atlantic and talking about iconic hatchbacks, this may be one of the most defining hot hatches of all time. We are talking about the Volkswagen Golf GTI, a car that is so iconic, but is maybe less iconic than its commercial campaign.
V-dub, holding it down on the engineering tip, y'all.
Now today, if you're shopping for a Golf GTI, the hard part is that there are so many generations to choose from. I think there's like 8. And each generation has its own unique charm and pros and cons. Like the turbocharged Mark 5s that are very easy to maintain. But then there's the Mark 4 with the VR6 and the all-wheel drive. And wait till you hear one. In reality, no matter which GTI you choose, you pretty much can't go wrong except for the 2012s. Stay away from those. And if you're still confused, look, I can't get into everything in this video. We moved pretty quick here. Get on a golf group, talk to some people. There's diehard fans of every generation, of every model, and figure out which one is right for you. And Pretty much no matter which one you choose, you're gonna be spending under 10 grand for this. Just my advice, pocket away a couple of grand just for maintenance and fixing it up, because Volkswagens, you know, they don't age too well. All right. Last entry on my list, and I kind of wanted to think outside the box for this one. I know this is a car that kind of is polarizing to say the least, but I think with what Hyundai's doing right now, we've got to talk about the Hyundai Veloster Turbo. I mean, nowadays, the hype is real on the Veloster N, since right now it's one of the best hatchbacks you can buy for the money, certainly the best sounding one. I mean, if you're shopping for a new fun car on the market right now, your choices are basically Civic Type R, Veloster N, and WRX, but who wants that new WRX? But back before the Hyundai Veloster N and the N line was created, there was the Veloster Turbo, which was a super reliable, fun to drive, quirky little car that you could pick up for cheap and still can today. Just be aware that this isn't the most tunable car on this list. There's not a lot of aftermarket support for these, but you know, suspension, wheels, call it a day, drive it around, have fun in it for next to nothing. And with that, the list is over. What's your choice? I know what Ivan's picking, the CRX. Anyway, let us know down below, subscribe while you're down there, and give the video a like. It really helps us out. I've been the Squid, and it has been ideal hanging out with y'all. See ya!